money, that's baby buying. And you're basically buying the baby because you're supporting this family, and you're not adopting because you want to be supporting a family for the rest of your life. You're not adopting that family, you're adopting this child. And that sometimes is all you know that you can do. And I think it's really hard for parents, especially for the Marshall Islands program, to see that. And to see that what they're doing is not charity. They're helping out in a certain situation, but it's not their job to continue to do that. And also, if you look at a big picture societal perspective, throwing money at issues and poverty, that's not the solution. So I think one of our big, huge jobs working in this adoption agency is that awareness piece, and so that parents understand that adoption is not charity. Another important piece about that I want to mention is it's really unhealthy to bring up children thinking that you're so lucky that we did this, we saved you from a horrible situation, because then children feel indebted to their parents their entire lives. And they feel maybe if they don't do this and that, then they're almost a failure to their parents. So we really try to educate families on the right language to use with their adoptive children, and not to say, we picked you, but really you chose us, and we love you for who you are and who you become. So that's an important piece about what we do. That's part of the why. Another piece is that I wrote is playing God, the power we hold, and safety over suitability. So we are not there we're not there to judge whether these individuals are going to be good parents or not. We're there to say, yes, you are going to be a safe home. You have committed to not using corporal punishment, and you have been educated about the adoption awareness, and you have been educated through our programs. So you've passed your home study. A lot of times we don't love the parents that come through. We don't love our clients. And it's not up to us to say whether or not they're allowed to be parents. There are certain things that will make you fail a home study. For instance, if you say you do use corporal punishment, or if you have a huge balcony and there's no fence and you live on the 3rd floor, then we might ask you to fix that. But I think we have to understand is that while we do hold a huge power to basically pass parents and say whether or not they can be parents, it's not up to us to decide beyond the safety issues. So that's why we say safety over suitability, and understanding the power that we hold, and not looking at it as power, and not looking at it as a power differential, but just really helping to educate people rather than to judge them. Another thing that we do that's super important is finding the right match. So when birth families come to us, a birth mother, a birth father, or an entire birth family, sometimes they might have things, listen, we're really a Catholic family, and we would love to find a family that can raise this child with some of that background. We're not going to go select a Jewish family to raise that child. One of our jobs is to make sure that there's going to be a compatibility between the birth family and the adoptive family, because that's a relationship that's going to be there for the rest of that child's life. So we want to make sure that we're finding matches that work for the birth families and also for the adoptive families, so that we don't have any issues further down the road legally, and so that these families can find good matches and be happy with their adoption. As I've mentioned, we do a ton of outreach and education. It's actually really interesting. A lot of doctors and nurses are not very well educated about the process of adoption, or they'll inflict sort of their own views on birth mothers who come in saying, I'm going to place my baby for adoption. So we try to do a lot of education about, okay, so what's the next step when a birth mother says that? What's the right terminology to use? What beliefs are you allowed to say to her, oh, I really don't agree with what you're doing. Or even a lot of times we find that nurses will say, oh, I have a friend who really wants to adopt. Can I introduce you? And that's really not the right way of going about it. So we like to do a lot of outreach to hospitals, Planned Parenthood, so that these women have a resource when they do decide that they want to relinquish their children. They know where they can turn. And education, of course, is part of our home study and as part of educating the birth families as well. Again, ending the stigma. So as I just mentioned, there's a lot of stigma around birth parents deciding to relinquish their children. There's also a lot of stigma surrounding adoption and adoptive families. I'm actually doing my research project on our ability to, how effective we are in educating adoptive families or potential adoptive families on the stigma and stereotypes that are out there. We want our families to feel equipped to go and out into the world with their adoptive family and not feel like they need to give an explanation or not feel like they need to tell anyone anything. We try to give families short and quick answers. We try to give them examples. There's still a lot of people in this world that look at adoption as a really negative thing. And so I think by educating our families about that, we give them the tools and resources to be able to handle that. And so that their children grow up being confident people and knowing that it's okay that they're an adoptive family. All families look different. And we have a lot of books to provide for parents. We give them a lot of we tell them a lot of our own experiences and stories. And we also have a lot of children's books that we recommend to families so that they can put a positive feeling into adoptive children about their unique situation. So that is what we do at Adopt International. It's been a really interesting road. I think that there's a huge learning curve when you come into the world of adoption. I thought that I knew so much about adoption because I had done so much work at orphanages all around the world, and I had friends that were adopted, but to be honest, I really didn't know the half of it. So when I came to the agency, I really had to kind of shut my mouth and just learn from the experiences and sit in on as many phone calls and meetings. And now I have my own client base. I have a nice stack of folders on my desk, and it feels really good to look at that and say, these are families that I'm educating and that I'm working with on my own. It's a lot of working with parents and adults, and I think that in the future I would like to work more with children. I think my favorite part of my placement right now is doing the post placements, so that I get to go see the families once they've adopted, and I get to kind of use my early childhood knowledge and educate them about, oh yes, this is very typical, or you might want to keep an eye out for that, and really answer their questions once they do have children, because I love working with children, and that's really my specialty. So, and our Healthy Families membership has also been something that's exciting for me, because there's families who come in with questions 10 years down the road. We adopted from you 10 years ago, now what? So I think that's the most interesting part, is when I get to answer those questions and work with the children and at least see the children and work with the families. So I hope that you learned a lot from this presentation, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.